I knew someone who used to drag me around London, hopping from one hardware computer store to another, buying soldering irons, tiny screws, cables, all because normal Macs and PCs weren't good enough for graphic designers or programmers. And as I remember those days, I wonder if you can notice your mind in a similar way. Sometimes feeling overloaded, like a CPU with too many programs running at once. And sometimes humming along perfectly when everything fits just right. And it's interesting how small adjustments, seating the CPU, plugging in the RAM, cooling the fans, can suddenly make everything run smoothly. And I wonder if you'll notice how your thoughts can do the same thing. Pausing, prioritizing, letting unnecessary load fade away, all while your mind optimizes effortlessly, just like that perfectly built system. And as I remember those busy days, I wonder if your mind has its own kind of busy circuitry, and perhaps you can notice it now, and you can wonder, as you notice how your mind is like a finely engineered CPU, a central hub that coordinates everything, housed in a special area, like a high-density landing pad, the CPU socket with thousands of tiny pins, each one making precise contact so that energy, information, and instruction can flow perfectly. Can you notice how each tiny pin, each electrical pathway has its role? How they connect to the motherboard, the central nervous system of your mental operations, allowing thoughts, sensations, and intentions to communicate smoothly, almost like a city with millions of roads, all perfectly aligned, and you can be pleased to notice how the CPU, your mental hub, receives power from a dedicated cable, a kind of steady, constant energy supply, so it can process information without interruption. And you begin to wonder when your CPU has felt overloaded before, when too many programs demanded attention, when the heat of activity built up and the fans of your mind had to spin faster. And with your permission, you can allow a sense of cooling, of balance to grow. Now I'd like you to have a new experience, imagining your CPU perfectly seated in its socket, all pins connected, all energy flowing, and a large metal heat sink, cooling fan, gently dispersing any excess heat so your thoughts can operate efficiently. I want you to enjoy this experience, noticing the RAM, your short-term memory, as a high-speed connection where data flows to the CPU, is processed and returned, everything working like a perfectly tuned orchestra. And you will be surprised at how easily your system can coordinate with storage, like a hard drive or SSD, feeding programs and long-term memories into RAM. And with the GPU directing your imagination and visualization, and with your peripherals, your senses and actions, providing inputs and receiving outputs. Now, of course, I don't know for sure what you're experiencing, but perhaps you're beginning to sense the distinction between low arousal, the CPU idling, pins connected but energy minimal, fans quiet, RAM almost empty, an optimal arousal, CPU running at full stable frequency, RAM flowing efficiently, heat perfectly managed, and high arousal, CPU overworked, pins overloaded, fans screaming, memory thrashing. It's gonna be a pleasure to watch your mental system find balance. Noticing buses connecting the CPU to RAM, storage, GPU and peripherals. Noticing the flow of instructions and feedback, the way data moves effortlessly along electrical pathways. And I'd like to have you discover that you can separate the feeling of pressure from the act of thinking, noticing the precise connections, the pins, the sockets, the buses, and taking a special kind of enjoyment in watching your system optimize itself. And sooner or later, I don't know just when, you may be surprised at how naturally your mind prioritizes tasks, closes unnecessary programs, throttles only when needed, and allows your CPU to remain stable. And I wonder if it will surprise you when you notice that your thoughts flow seamlessly, like data streaming from storage into RAM, processed by the CPU, sent to the GPU, and displayed effortlessly on your mental monitor. I wonder if you'll be curious as you notice how easy it is to step back, to observe your system monitor, the clock speed of your CPU, the usage of RAM, the flow along buses, the cooling fan adjusting automatically. You already know how to pause, to consider, to choose deliberately, to let processes finish, to avoid overloading pins, to shut down unnecessary applications. Perhaps you wouldn't mind noticing how simple it can be to decide whether to proceed or pause. Almost like choosing which programs to launch, which to suspend, which to allow rest. I would like you to discover something important. One of the first things is that noticing arousal, recognizing overload, is itself a skill. Like reading a system monitor and adjusting clock speed, checking temperature sensors, balancing memory allocation. And I want you to notice something that's happening to you. At first, perhaps subtle. CPU fans slowly spinning down, pins connected, buses flowing smoothly, RAM clearing, but later increasingly clear. A sense of calm, a sense of control, a sense of smooth rhythm returning to your mental system. Have you begun to notice that yet? And I think you're going to enjoy being surprised that simply by noticing, your mental system can optimize itself. I want you to notice something that's happening to you. The separation of feeling and thought. The observation of CPU cycles. RAM usage. Bus traffic. Peripheral communication. The lightness in letting go of unnecessary load. The pleasure of efficient performance. I wonder if you'll enjoy how naturally, how easily your attention finds flow. How effortlessly RAM clears. How the CPU hums at an optimal speed. No wonder if you'd like to enjoy the smoothness of your mental operations. I wonder if you'll be surprised to discover that each deliberate choice reinforces your skill, your insight, and your ease. And I wonder if you'd like to be curious about the fact that your system already has these capacities waiting to be accessed just by noticing, just by allowing, perhaps noticing, perhaps beginning to notice, perhaps enjoying the clarity that comes from a mind in balance. Like a computer in perfect sleep mode, pins fully seated, energy flowing, fans quiet. I wonder if you've ever noticed how quickly the system cools when unnecessary tabs close. Maybe it will surprise you to notice the calm, the efficiency, the smoothness. I'd like you to let yourself become more and more aware of the natural rhythm of your thoughts. of your CPU frequency stabilizing, RAM clearing, buses flowing, heat dissipating, background tasks suspended. Your unconscious mind can enable you to prioritize, pause, to optimize, to allow the system to enter perfect flow. I wonder if you'll decide to let unnecessary programs rest or focus on the tasks that matter most. In all probability, very likely, your mind will begin to find its own flow. The CPU humming, pins connected, RAM efficiently engaged, buses clear. And would you be willing to experience the satisfaction of observing this process? You don't need to be concerned if some programs remain open. It's so nice to know that your system can rest naturally. Do you notice the beginning of deep, pleasant calm? Fans spinning slower, processing load decreasing, thoughts flowing efficiently. It may be that you enjoy this process more than you expect. At times like this, some people enjoy simply watching their system optimize itself. One of the first things you can become aware of is the gentle slowing of your thoughts. And it appears that already your system is entering sleep mode. Pins seated, fans quiet, RAM emptying. Give yourself the opportunity to see if this calm can deepen, perhaps sooner than you expect. And you can wonder what it's like to allow sleep to take over. And in an interesting way, you'll discover that your system can rest without losing control. And it's very rewarding to know that your mind knows how to optimize even while you sleep. And now, as that occurs, you really can't help but notice how naturally, how easily sleep flows. Almost as if the CPU is fully powered down. Pins secure, RAM cleared, buses idle, kind of like a computer entering deep sleep. And that's just fine. And that's all right. All that really matters is your calm. All that's really important is your deep relaxation. And sooner or later, very likely your body and mind will drift completely into sleep, deeper and deeper, effortlessly. And that's okay. You are perfect just as you are.